April, it's 4 minutes past 11 a.m. here in Australia. My latest video blog is going to be on Global Reit. Now, it's a website I've come across that's going to be focusing on the real estate industry. So that's the niche. Anyone that's following crypto will now know that we've moved away from Bitcoin as a sole understanding. We've moved away from currencies, even though they're very highly relevant. And now what we're seeing is all these different platforms and different opportunities coming in, and the entire world is going to be tokenized in specific niches. And I can even forecast, I'm not sure if this is going to happen, but I can see the stock market also, all the companies on the stock market slowly migrating over to this particular new direction in regards to engagement between not only investors but consumers and just the public, and getting them invested from an emotional point of view into corporate entities, and obviously opportunities if you want to look at it from investment. But this is not an investment video. This is an explanatory video based on what Global Reit's going to be delivering very, very soon through their blockchain and through their tokenized incentives based around the real estate investment. So what they're going to be doing is setting up a global real estate investment trust. Now, I've opened up a few tabs, and I'm just going to run through a whole heap of little gold nuggets that I've picked out of their white paper and on their websites, and also done a little bit of research into what Global Reits do. And I think the big thing here for me is, in the last 20 years, especially in Australia, since about 2000, housing prices have really just jumped out and out of reach. Anyone that's come out of school in the 20s, early 20s, 30s, people looking, families looking to get into the market, are finding it really, really hard to not only establish a deposit, but also just get into the market as a start, because the prices are just blowing out of proportion. So if you go to Sydney, to find a house under $1 million is probably a very rare thing, unless you're in the outskirts suburbs where the job opportunities probably aren't as relevant. So, I don't think it's great for those people looking to get into the market. So this is why Global Reits can be very, very positive. And I think it makes sense. This particular niche makes sense, where if you can connect a tokenized incentive and bring people in from around the world into one investment trust, it may have some really strong legs. So what is Global Reit? So who would be interested in the Global Reit? I think anyone like a crypto investor who's looking for stable dividends on a monthly basis. So this is the big thing about Global Reit, is they are falling into that security-based entity. So there's a little bit of legal stuff going on here, and I've done a little bit of research into what that may mean. So I want to, anyone that's looking at this from an investment point of view, and this is not investment advice, well, it probably is investment advice, is you need to go and understand that this could fall into SEC in America in particular. So please go show and do some due diligence on that. So who would be interested? Crypto investor looking for a dividend. Anyone that's got real estate and wants to put up their real estate as an asset into a liquid market. And then you got REITs, anyone that wants to get into a REIT and who doesn't quite have the capacity to go on their own. They may want to leverage some of their assets or some of their income into a different platform, and that's why this particular platform may be of interest to those particular people. Global Reit is the first ever blockchain-based Sharia-compliant REIT to be launched on the market. It will start with a net asset value of 75 million, will reach 2 billion by the end of 3 years. The first ICO will take place with 90 million coins, so that's not too many. The investment made by token holders will be invested in tangible assets, which will generate income for all shareholders. So again, it's going to be offering it, from what I can see, a dividend, which would fall into the category of security. However, I'm going to run through something else at the end of this in regards to all of that. So the Global Reit works on the same mechanism as a traditional REIT. So it's going to be obviously based on the blockchain. There's going to be smart contracts, and it's also going to be a liquid pool of inclusion, blockchain as a whole, because you're going to find the whole world comes together, and we go from there. So how do you produce that? I actually went and wanted to go and find out how to pronounce it. So this is how you pronounce REIT.
Reit.
I'll do it.
Reit.
There you go. Reit. So Reit, I just thought that was funny. What is a REIT? So Reit is a real estate investment trust, an REIT, a corporational trust that uses pooled capital of many investors to purchase and manage income, property, equity REIT, and or mortgage loans, mortgage REIT. REITs are traded on major exchanges just like stocks. They are also granted special tax considerations. REITs offer several benefits over actually owning properties. First, they are highly liquid, unlike traditional real estate. Second, REITs enable sharing in non-residential properties as well, such as hotels, malls, and other commercial industrial properties. Now, there's no doubt that I think there's quite a few pockets around the world where you want to call it housing bubbles. I think the retail market is changing a lot now that a lot of businesses are now going online. We're finding that some of the industrial areas where people were starting small business are now vacant, and I find that here in my capital city, it's becoming a bit of a ghost town. It's only really narrowing down to specific go-to type of businesses. Anything that can be done online is no longer renting properties, and they're renting big warehouses. People like Amazon have really taken away market share of a lot of small businesses around the world. Thirdly, with a REIT, there's no minimum investment with REITs. REITs do not necessarily increase and decrease in value along with the broader market. However, they pay yields in the form of dividends no matter how the shares perform. REITs can be valued based upon fundamental measures similar to the valuation of stocks, but different numbers tend to be important for REITs than for stocks. So there's obviously a little bit of greater understanding still to be developed or devised or understood in regards to how Global REIT will actually forward these particular returns. Now, what will happen is when you actually invest into Global REIT, you will get two different tokens. So one's going to be a GREM, which is a Global REIT Fund Manager, and the second is going to be a Global REIT Asset Token. Now, I assume one's going to be based on the dividend, and the other one's going to be more of a stable token, so more like a staking token, I should say. So the GREM is going to be a dividend on the GREM token. The dividend on the GREM token will initially start at 2% of NAV and will reduce to a maximum of 1.25% of NAV as the Global REIT matures. The GRET is going to be the dividend, and the dividend on the GRET token will be a stable 8% of the investment which is made in the AUM. So look, for me, this is of interest because I can use and leverage existing assets and also seek to obtain a return. Some people put their money in the bank, and I think that's gone. That's a dated model. I mean, in Australia here, we make about a 1.25% return if you keep your money in the bank. There's no point. It's not actively doing anything for you. Anyone that's got big amounts of money in the bank should get it out and actually start contributing to society, putting it into other investments that are going to provide a greater tangible return, I believe. And things like this, I mean, 8% is stable, it's not huge, but guess what, 8% every year is a lot better than 1.25, and especially if you can get yourself into, I think, a positive debt position. I think too many people are in debt and they're paying 7, 8, 9, 10% interest on cars and homes and whatnot. So even these type of things can actually leverage against those particular loans. But if you can get rid of your debt, then you start making real money. And that's what I've done in my life. I don't owe anything. I don't have any credit cards. Don't have any home loans, things like that. If I do get a loan, I pay it off as fast as I can, and that's the goal I believe everyone should be focused on. Don't worry about 25-year loans. That's crazy. You've got to get yourself into a positive position as best you can. Doesn't mean you can't use capital and leverage your position. However, owning or owing lots and lots of money is not a smart direction. Now I've got a little video here I'm going to play for you, which is just the featured video on the Global REIT website.
Global Reit is the first ever blockchain-based REIT to be launched in the world. Global Reit works on the same mechanism as traditional REITs. REITs are public shareholding structures that offer dividends to its unit holders based on the income of its assets under management. Global Reit, on the contrary, will welcome its subscribers to participate in both the fund manager GREM returns as well as the income on the assets under management, GRET. Each subscriber will get 2 tokens upon subscription, GREM and GRET. GRET will pay out dividends monthly to its subscribers. Reit has its first asset secured at 8% per annum on its first acquired asset as dividend. The first AUM is valued at $75 million located at the Palm, Dubai, UAE. Both REM and GRET tokens are utility tokens and will provide future access to all its assets under management, where token holders will receive discounts and other benefits. Global Reit is open to REITs worldwide who like to take advantage of an already established blockchain framework and enter the crypto domain by contributing their assets.
So Global Reit, it's
Global Reit is the first ever.
So Global Reit definitely has a very solid niche, an existing niche, huge part of the financial sector. And no doubt, I believe this type of financial instrument is going to be very, very strong in the future. However, again, it does fall under that security token. So the United States and the SEC may be a challenge until the SEC starts relaxing their legislation or starts to change the legislation to allow US citizens to get involved in these type of things, which I believe will happen. I mean, to reduce the innovation of blockchain through the United States is just suicide. I think they've got to work out what they're doing there as fast as they can to allow that money to come into this space, because I think there's so many great opportunities. Like I said, I think even with the securities and the stock market, I can see at some stage there'll be framework put in place to allow the stock market and security-based entities to come over to blockchain and open it up to those willing or wanting to get involved. Next thing with Global Reit, I opened up the white paper. I always open up the white paper and the small light papers and have a read, show some due diligence myself. I'm going to do a video on this one. I know what I'm talking about. Doesn't mean I have all the answers. However, what I try to do is get a great grasp of what this is all about, because if I'm going to make a personal investment or just get an understanding of what's happening in the blockchain, you've got to dive in to the actual framework to get an understanding of how that's going to benefit society as a whole. So I'm going to read this out because I think it's relevant. Real Estate Investment Trust, or REITs. Real estate investing is an increasingly favourable method of wealth building, and there are many ways for individuals to invest in real estate. However, traditional real estate investment models have immense barriers to entry. They create onerous burdens in terms of regulatory and financial aspects attached to them, and makes investing unfeasible for most of the potential investors. For example, if you want to own a real estate asset in a foreign country, in addition to the significant capital required for purchasing the asset itself, you would generally need to incorporate a local entity as an investing partner, since investment by foreign investors is restricted in most jurisdictions. I'll just stop it there. That's exactly what's happening to me in Indonesia. I've just bought some land. I'm building a little getaway hotel thing there, and I've had to go and jump hoops to get particular ownership. I have to set up a corporate entity. I have to fill out certain criteria and all sorts of things to actually get approved to be involved in that particular investment. I also have to involve and bring in locals as part of my staff, which I think is great, and I'll do that anyway. But obviously, there are lots of barriers, and I'm just going to continue. You also need to fulfill all the statutory requirements, including but not limited to tax, accounting and ongoing registration obligations, which have significant costs associated with them. Furthermore, there are restrictions on the type of property funds that an investor may invest in, limiting choice and developers' access to capital. Foreign direct investment also has vulnerability attached to it in terms of micro and macroeconomic conditions in each country. To mitigate these risks and overcome investing challenges, market offers real estate investment trusts, REITs, as an alternative investment vehicle. A REIT is a trust, a corporation or an association that owns or finances income-producing real estate and can be publicly listed or privately owned. So the key features of a typical REIT are REITs are a platform for diversifying a long-term investment portfolio. Number 2, income of a REIT is generated through rent earned from its owned asset portfolio, interest earned by financing real estate assets, or sale proceeds upon sale of assets under management, AUM. 90% of income generated by REIT is distributed as dividend to its shareholders, and another benefit is publicly listed REITs are liquid investment vehicle, meaning you can opt in and opt out. And obviously, when you've got lots of people involved, you find that your initial capital for return doesn't have to be as big. So there's massive positives to this, and I like it. And I can see a lot of millennials who haven't quite got $100,000 or $200,000 saved up to get involved in asset or wealth creation can get involved in these particular platforms. Obviously, we've still got some hurdles and some legislation to get through in regards to the security stuff. However, that's all going to come forward. Like I said, there's going to be 2 tokens, very similar to Spectre. I've got that they're also doing a dividend or a return. So very, very interesting space, and showing that if you do your homework, you can get invested in particular blockchains that will passively earn you an income. And it doesn't mean you have to invest the entire world. You might just have $500 there, and if it's earning money, 8% beyond your 1.25%. And it's liquid rather than, say, like a term deposit bank account, I think there's a lot of positives to this. But again, it's up to you to work out what's right for you. How does it actually work? I think I did look at this because I did want to look, and I looked in the white paper. I think there's a little bit more reading, but if you think of it just as a bit of a liquid flow, so you've got an investor who invests with cryptocurrencies, comes into the platform, they get in return some gret and grim and a dividend for their investment. That obviously goes towards the pool or the asset owners. The asset owners are then moving their assets because they're providing the actual tangible product or the product that's going to create the portfolio or part of the portfolio. Then there's a fund manager, which is going to be Global Reit, and creating via smart contracts that then flows back through the system, and the investor then will get gret and grim and a dividend as well. So both ends of the spectrum are going to benefit. The asset owners and the investors are going to obtain passive incomes at both levels, all secured by the blockchain, all secured by smart contracts. Sounds good to me. Now, in regards to the security stuff, I was talking in my Crypto Nuts, and I've been talking to other people in regards to Global Reit. How does securities fit in with blockchain? At the moment, you see lots of restrictions in the United States. Now, I need to do a little bit more research on Polymath. I know that Polymath is going to be a securities token platform. Now, what this is going to be, this is probably the gateway for the stock market and anyone that's offering a dividend or a return for investment to come into the space. And I think that's needed, that's required. And if there's legal and lawful infrastructure in place that enables these entities to come over, guess what? I can see the whole stock market. Anyone that's savvy from the stock market, they've got this company, got very, very low liquidity on their listed stock market or stock, and what happens is they come over into a very liquid cryptocurrency blockchain energy that's happening right now, and all of a sudden they could bring life to their product. Or, I mean, it could be anything. It could be banking sector, it could be insurance, it could be obviously the precious metal market. You know, you might invest in a mine, and then they might actually start getting more engagement with their investors through Telegram and things like that. I can see that being the future of corporates. Corporates will have to adapt and evolve to engage with their investors more. Otherwise, they're going to be left behind, and there's going to be a new energy towards the engagement. It's that whole trust between the investor, and you probably find that the money invested in these particular entities will be a little bit more secure, a little bit more faith, a lot more trust. Therefore, people stay invested in these particular entities for a longer term. So that's Global Reit. I think it's a great niche. If they can get through their security issues, I'm not sure how that's going to affect particular investors. I don't think it affects me here in Australia. I'm going to do some research on that. I know it does affect people in the US and some other countries, Asian countries, so you need to go and do your research. However, this is the future, I believe. Again, it's another passive income type of platform. Show your own and do your due diligence. Go and read the white paper, see what this is all about. I'm happy to have an active conversation about it on my Steemit and in my Crypto Nuts. The link is actually below this video if you want to get involved in there. Like I said in the past, you don't have to be totally active. You can just be passive and read what all the boys and girls are talking about, and hopefully that adds to your experience. So let me know what you think. Thanks for listening to my ramble on Global Reit, and yeah, look, sounds promising. Let me know what you think, and tune into my